does Max essentially have one hand on that championship?
Joe, I think that when it comes to Max, it's never too early. You didn't even have to watch the whole race, as Ben was pointing out earlier. Just going into that first turn, when Max came out in the front, you knew automatically that Max was going to win. And then at one point, he was, I believe, over 35 seconds ahead of whoever was driving in second place, which was Checo, his own teammate, right in the same car. So I think it's very, very obvious that 2024 is also Max's year, and that he's also going to win the championship this year.
Yeah, I was thinking he's made it out of turn one. Thought, all right, maybe he's got a chance. I gave him about 10 laps to see if something was going to go wrong, but no, Max Verstappen did his thing. I think it's. I mean, come on, he won. It wasn't the broadcast barely mentioned him for the first bit of the race. He was gone and in his own league again. Yeah, I think Max Verstappen will capture another championship this year.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I knew as soon as he made it through the first corner cleanly that the only way he was not going to win this race was if the engine let go. I mean, they are just so far ahead. And I think they even mentioned this on the broadcast to put it into perspective. Last year, he won this race by roughly 12 seconds. This year, he won the race by 22 seconds. So if anything, they're even ahead of where they were last year. All the talk about Max not being happy in practice and the car not performing how he would like. I think Red Bull was either doing a little bit of sandbagging or they weren't running hot laps for whatever reason. You see them on the screen right there. They have 26 points for Max, 18 for Checo. Max picked up the fastest lap as well. They picked up the full 44 points they could, and I think that's going to be the story at most of the races, maybe even all the races this year. We'll see. They came up one race short of the perfect season last year. Obviously, there's only one team that can still do that. It's Red Bull Racing, and they look in prime position to make another run at winning at least 20 races this year, like we were talking about earlier this week.
Now, Max Verstappen dominated the race. Behind him, his teammate, we saw Sergio Perez. He had essentially a lot of pressure last year. This is going to be a big year for him to try to deliver, because a lot of people have been expecting and predicting that he could be replaced. Some folks even saying mid-season. So far, though, second place looked pretty good. He made some passes on the Ferraris and George Russell. I got to ask you, when it comes to Sergio Perez, Isha, is this enough to silence the doubters, or do you see potential trouble ahead for Sergio Perez?
I wouldn't exactly see that I see potential. I wouldn't exactly say that I see potential trouble, but I don't know if it's enough to silence the doubters from last season either. Just looking at today's performance, it was a pretty good job. He didn't start in second, but he did finish in second. And he did overtake a few cars. He overtook the Mercedes, the Ferrari. So it was a good run from him. And looking back at last season, there were certain races where he had very good job done, and then other races like the Mexican Grand Prix that turned out to be disasters for him. Um, but I think we really just have to wait and see how the next few races go to determine what the rest of the season's going to be like. But I think that so far he's definitely started 2024 on the right foot, and I think that so far, things are going his way.
He maybe hasn't silenced all the doubters, but I think he silenced some doubters over at Ferrari. I think they were pretty confident that they'd at least be able to hold off Checo and obviously not have anything for Max, but at least be able to round off the podium, I guess, was second and third. They ended up third and fourth instead, and we'll talk about Ferrari and Sainz particularly here in just a moment. But this is exactly what Sergio Perez needs to do. Obviously, Max Verstappen is going to be the favorite to win pretty much every race this year, except maybe Singapore. We'll see. But as long as he can be second or perhaps even third, be on the podium every weekend, that needs to be his goal. And if he does that, like I said, like I predicted earlier this week, I still think Checo is in prime position to finish second in the championship. Even he did it last year, even being inconsistent. That's how dominant and how far ahead Red Bull seems to be of every other constructor right now.